Greetings, everyone. It is your favorite Dark Sorcerer here, Angelus, son of Abaddon. And tonight I'd like to talk about the beginning. Okay? What do I mean by the beginning? This is the beginning of your gnosis. This is the beginning of your journey into magic. A lot of people, when they get into a specific path, they think a lot of them tend to get an ego because they think, oh, I've read this certain book, I'm now an expert. Well, I hate to break it to you, but that doesn't make you an expert. That just makes you a self-egotist. A practitioner has to realize that there's an awakening process. This process begins with you as the individual. It is a path working that you must identify the energy currents within you. Okay? How do you tap into them? What is it that you are seeking within magic? What is it about magic that attracts you? Why did you get into this? Why did you get your first book on witchcraft or Satanism or some form of spiritualism? You see, this is the beginning process. It is that questioning. It is that awakening from the false dogmas, the lies that you have been led to believe. Because you are tapping into the truth of things. Is that there's so much out there for you to learn. So much that you can get into and apply to benefit yourself, your family, even clients. It doesn't matter if it's at work. It doesn't matter if it's the magical community that comes to you eventually. And they will come to you eventually, especially when they see that you are learning, that you are growing, and that you know what you're talking about. You will become, you basically are awakening and you are becoming the acolyte, the neophyte, the beginner, the little baby witchling. Okay? And what this is that this is where you begin your journey. You're buying the books, you're studying, you're learning about the creeds, the laws, the regulations. And if you delve further into, say, black magic, for an example, or dark sorcery, then guess what? You're realizing there's really nothing that you can't do. Because it's really laws and boundaries are just there to hold you back. You see, a lot of traditions take on the form of, say, for an example, the Ten Commandments, the JCI, the Hebraic systems. These are meant to keep you as a slave, to keep you down and subservient. When you realize that you can break these rules and these commandments and nothing is going to happen, then it's that light bulb that comes on. Well, let's go to this next step. I've been utilizing idol worship, worshiping Baphomet, been communing with Satan, Lucifer, Carnunos, Bach, Sutekh, Anubis, Hecate, Freya, Thor. There's so many different types of pantheons out there that you can get into and delve into. So you go from idol worship to becoming an enchantress or an enchanter. You become connected. You start buying products such as candles, chalk, or you can do it the old-fashioned way and use rocks, make that circle of empowerment, the inverted pentagram perhaps the triangle with the circle in it, the triangle of evocation. You welcome, Dice Controller 187, and welcome to the channel. Same with you, Judy Carter. So then you go on to the next step and you begin buying the books. You begin buying the altar tools, such as the chalice, the athame, the burn pot, the cauldron, the crystals, and the divination tools, such as the crystal ball, the black scrying mirror, the mirror of Lilith, for an example. You start buying herbs and plants and experimenting through the black arts or even witchcraft in general. You start learning palmistry and fortune telling stuff. You start learning, and before you know it, you've made your first deal, your first pact with a spirit. You've called upon these ancient gods or goddesses, these ancient beings, and you've brought them forth, and you've made that blood pact, that offering, that sacrifice. You've written out your pact, and you've signed your name in blood, be it Mephistopheles or Lucifer Drafakal, or even a independent demon like Ashtaroth, Beelzebub, maybe Paimon, Belial, perhaps even Volok, Balaam, Sitri. It made you feel good, made you feel powerful. And before you realize it, you've separated from the sheep, the herd, and now you're an individual. And you're continuing on, unafraid. But yet, deep down, you have that knot in your gut. Well, guess what? You're going from that neophyte, that acolyte position, and you're becoming the adept. The adept has committed themselves to a particular path working or root working, be it hoodooism, voodoo, Quimbanda, Umbanda, Santeria, Pero Mayambi, Satanism, witchcraft, shamanism. And you continue on. You continue to make those relationships, forging those relationships with spirits, learning from them. You begin experimentation with seals and runes and practices, and you start laying down the foundations of the four basic identifications of what witchcraft is about. Witchcraft, necromancy, divination, and possession. You start calling these beings into yourself or into your altar room, and you begin working with them. You begin channeling them, learning from them, letting them into your world, and you begin to grow. Your knowledge begins to grow. You start keeping records. You start with a journal. You start with a grimoire, the black book, even. You get a part and you join a coven, or perhaps you're more comfortable being a solitary practitioner. Personally, I like being a solitary practitioner, but I have loyalties to covens. I have loyalties to certain systems. But you continue to grow. You continue to build up that information, experimenting with formulas such as Hellbore, White Oriolander, Yarrow, Nightshade, Deadly Nightshade, maybe even Hemlock. Maybe other things like, say, cinnamon. lemons, berries, fruits, you name it. This is herbalism. You start putting together oleums, creating candles, making them for yourself. Welcome to the channel, nobody. I think this is the first time you've been on one of my videos. So, welcome. So, anyways, before long, you're buying the Orcrocs, the banners, talismans, and amulets. Hell, you might even be interested in creating them, making them from scratch through alchemy. Getting into historical and mythical studies, completely dedicating yourself to those packs, to that root working that you're into. And as you continue on, let's say, for example, you've spent a decade, so let's go with, say, 7 to 10 years of hard study and practice. So then you decide, you know what? I want to talk about my experiences. So you make a YouTube channel, or you begin applying your gnosis within Facebook groups. You start associating with other practitioners, a lot of which are basically jokes. We all know this. A lot of them are armchair magicians hiding behind keyboards. But then you come across those few who guide you, those few who will help you further your career and your endeavors within magic, within sorcery in general. Maybe even take you underneath their wing as an apprentice, if you're lucky. Perhaps even invite you to join their coven. Or they'll just simply lead you to the material so that you can go forth and apply it, study it, analyze it, and apply it to gain the benefits in your own magical journey. Mr. Eaglesworth, welcome to the channel. What I would recommend, Dice Controller, is the Black Void meditation, the Dark Void meditation. Light the incense, sit in darkness. It's the best way to begin. Sit there in darkness and just stare off into darkness. See what comes out. You know, if you have a circle of empowerment, utilize it. Okay? Sit in front of your altar. Light the incense. Don't light any candles. Do not light them. Just sit there quietly. Maybe in Indian style, sitting, or maybe with your feet flat on the floor while you're sitting in a chair. And just stare off into the darkness. No distractions, no music, no technology. Just sit there and take it all in. Even do a mantra, for an example. Maybe you can create a mantra. You can find a lot of good ones out there, from Satanism to black magic to hell, even in Hinduism, there's several good mantras out there that you can utilize. And this is one of the things that you as a practitioner will learn over time is meditation is a great way to put yourself into that state of mind, to reflect upon what your intent is, what you're about to do, or what you have done, depending if you do it before or after or both. More so, how to allow your psychic, your higher brain function to open up. It's what Christopher Penziak refers to this as the alpha state of mind. This is where you go from the conscious to the unconscious. More so, when you add in things like a mantra. If you're a Satanist, in nomine dinostri satane luciferi excelsi, just repeating it. Perhaps even in nomine domini mundi est, and then whatever spirit you're invoking or evoking for that matter. You know, in domus de orum et osium. Okay, welcome to the house of golden bones. Memento mori. Okay, remember that we must die so that we have inspiration to live again. Okay, communing in darkness, especially with the void meditation, is not only awakening and allowing your natural senses to become heightened, but to create that serpent look in the darkness. Okay, now what do I mean by the serpent look? Have you ever gone into the darkness and allowed your eyes to adjust so that you can see in darkness? Okay, let's say, for an example, you're able to see things in darkness and in light that those in the light can't see. Have you ever just sat there in darkness and watched somebody just walk right by you, unaware that you were there because you remained still? Same thing applies. The only difference is you're allowing your eyes to adjust to darkness, but it goes beyond that. You're listening. You're becoming attuned to your inner sanctum, to the portals that you've awakened. When you construct a portal, an altar, that altar becomes that portal, just like a circle or a triangle of evocation. It not only boosts the energy and the currents around you, but it also generates pure energy from the current that you're into. So sitting there in darkness, just staring into the darkness, you're able to attune and see what's coming out of that darkness towards you. Sit there chanting. It's up to you on how long you do it, how long you're comfortable just sitting there. I recommend at least 30 minutes daily of just meditation through the use of the void meditation. This technique works. And what's ironic is before you know it, even at work, if you work in the fast food and you have to have a headset on, you'd be surprised what you can hear. I've had a few customers myself go, "Wait, you heard that?" It's like, yep. Hell, even my own coworkers have been at least 10 feet away, whispering to each other. And I'm talking a low decimal that only they can hear. When you whisper into somebody's ear and you're standing 10 feet away and you can tell them exactly what they're talking. This is what I mean by allowing your senses to become heightened. The void meditation is a great way to do that dice controlling. Okay? Donald Tyson, he may be into the Necromyicon workings, but personally, I find him more of a childish, almost like a someone that's interested in more comic book fantasies. Okay, that's how I view him. If you really want somebody that was serious into the Necromyicon, I would recommend Simon. He has several good books out. The Necromyicon, the Gates of the Necromyicon, the Dead Names of the Necromyicon. You have the Seals of the Necromyicon, and so forth. I mean, he's got several out right now. Recommend him highly. He's dedicated to that path working. So that works too. Nobody. Mantras really do work, and they will help you get into those currents. And that's something, like I said, that you will find when you evolve in the arts, is that it is you who is changing from the inside out. You'll notice that the energy and the currents begin with you. Before you can expand your will into the world, you have to first do it here, inside yourself. You can use a candle if that's more comfortable. Personally, you can focus on the flame. You can focus on darkness in general. You can focus on a shimmer on glass. Everything has energy and everything has currents that you can tap into. Now, personally, I like Simon's work. It literally goes hand in hand with that of what Lovecraft talked about in his Necromyicon, just in different formulations. Now, when you get into the intermediate and advanced stages, and you begin realizing that you can write your own rituals, you can write your own seals, draw your own seals, and create your own ceremonies, utilizing the beings that you've forged relationships with. You tend to learn that you can go from the microcosm to the macrocosm state. This is the little god becoming the big god. You see, the beings that we work with, they are gods in themselves. They've been where we are. They're willing to show us the way, but they're not going to work. They're not going to do the work for you. It doesn't matter if you're working with Ahriman from the Zoroastrianism. It doesn't matter if you're working from the JCI, Satan, you know, or Lucifer. It doesn't matter if you're working with say Hades or Anubis, the bad guy, so to speak, or that of Helios, hell from Norse mythology. It does not matter. Every tradition for the past 2,500 years has light and dark currents to them. You go back to Sanskrit, and you're going to see Belial being the leader of the sons and daughters of darkness, which is referenced in, I believe it's Deuteronomy in the Bible. Okay, this is in the scroll of Amri. All right, and you're going to see all this, and then you've got Marduk versus Tiamat in the Necromyicon. That every system has their own good versus evil, light versus darkness. Hell, even if you look at practitioners today, you're going to see the Darak versus the Druid. You're going to see the Bokor versus the Hugan or Mamba. Okay, you're going to see the Warlock versus the Witch. Okay, in witchcraft. And yes, I did see your question, Judy. and I'll get to in just a moment. So, I mean, it comes down with how far you're willing to work for that gnosis, that apotheosis, and to grow inside the magic. When you forge those relationships with the spirits, be it demons, jinn, Loa, Ugan, you're going to grow just as your altar is going to grow. It's going to change just like you're changing for that specific need, that specific time period in your sorcery. You welcome nobody, and thank you. I'm glad you like what I put forth. So, yeah, I mean, nothing beats experience. You know, when we're growing up in the world, our parents tell us that we need to have respect for our elders. We need to pay homage to our ancestors. I mean, this is stuff that a lot of people do that they don't realize. In necromancy, we work with the spirits. We work with graveyard, the restless. We work with the dead, the sleeping, the undead, and of graves and graveyards. Especially those of us who petition them for the title Grave Lord. Okay, but they are the ancestors. They are former reincarnated souls. They are the former practitioners that can guide you and to speak, to teach you. They've stepped into a veil that is much wider than what we currently are aware of. But with normal mundane people, when you go to a graveyard today, how many times do you see somebody visiting a grave? This is paying homage to their ancestors. In Louisiana, this is something that they do daily. They celebrate life and death. You go down into Mexico, they're working with Santa Muerte, Saint Death, Holy Death. Certain individuals have utilized it for a thing of fear associated with criminality, but guess what? Shit happens, right? But they do this, and you're going to find this no matter what path you work on. But it does come down to the experience that you gain. And one of the cool things about joining a coven is you'll be able to work with that system of magic, but only from the coven setting. You're able to get into what they teach and only what they teach. They won't allow you to go into other areas of study. However, what they don't tell you is that your own personal study is up to you. But when it comes to the loyalty of that coven, you have to put that coven before yourself. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. But it's there. And this brings me to Judy Carter's question. And she says, I always wonder why I've had these gifts, why I started wanting to research. And then she says, I've always felt Lilith has been with me since birth, but never did a pact with her. but we work together. So should I make the pact? Never heard of doing pacts. Okay. Now, as I stated before, you're going to make pacts, you're going to make deals, but it comes down to what you're looking for and where you want to be within your sorcery. Now, you have a few types of individuals. You have what is known as the book learned. Okay. The book learned are those who go out and learn the materials for themselves and experiment for themselves. They don't really have a teacher most of the time, unless they learn from a coven perspective. Okay. The dabblers are those who have their hand in the proverbial cookie jar. Okay. And they are unsatisfied with every type of practice because they're only utilizing 1% of what can truly be done within that system. And because they've done the rituals and they failed in completing the rituals and the workings, they tend to go into other areas, never really settling in and becoming one with that current. Okay. So right there you have the book learned and the dabblers. These are the two forms. Now the third form is what is known as the hereditary family line, the family lineage. Okay. Some individuals are more in tune with spirits. Okay. Some individuals automatically tend to sense things. They're more sensitive to spirits and to currents. They can go into a room and all of a sudden realize, hey, there's something here. Or they're going to go by, a graveyard or perhaps see into a haunted house and be able to see a spirit. Okay. This is a natural ability that comes from a hereditary lineage. Somewhere in your line, Judy, you've had family, practitioners within sorcery. Okay. You've had practitioners in your family line somewhere. Most likely, most of them have most likely been Christian. Because if you look at the last 400 years, it's been Christian dominated. Okay. Anything outside of that, you had the witch trial, the Witches Act against them. Now, most likely, I would say 16th century, maybe 17th century, you've had some form of dabblers, some form of individuals who got into sorcery. But since then, it's been mostly Christians. But there's been something that has, how should I say this, that's you've stumbled on, that's awakened that aspect of yourself. Maybe it's something of reading about Lilith from, say, Michael W. Ford's book, or, say, for an example, the Goetic spirits, maybe the Grand Grimoire, or even the Bible. Something that felt wrong, something that's made you question and awakened you. This is stuff that happens. But you are the one that has literally started nourishing that part of yourself. When you get into the occult, you're going to step into the best way I can describe this to you, Judy, is this. Have you ever gone to a pond, perhaps a river, maybe a mud puddle, even, and you've taken a pebble and you just tossed it into the water? Obviously, that pebble is going to sink to the bottom. But you notice the ripple effects, okay? The ripples that generate from it. This is what you've done when you've stepped into this world. Okay? Being the fact that you stated that you've had a feeling that this specific spirit has been with you since you were born, but it's only been most recently that you started working with her. Okay? I would recommend the Jewish Haggadah to you, the Talmud, even the Munich manuscripts. These materials here will give you a much more broader picture of Lilith. Not only how to conjure her, but to associate. It can help you benefit you within getting a better connection with her. In this case, you can make a pact with her if you wish. You can create a seal or a sigil for her. You can even find one on Google. There's a lot of different seals for demons and angels right now that are out there on Google. And there are a few out there, different ones that I've come across just on Lilith alone. There was some rare seals. There was a PDF that I came across on Google that had a rare seal of Lilith. I found another one that was in a grimoire. So you can utilize these and make a pact, maybe draw it out and then write the pact out on top of it and anoint it with, sign it with your own blood. Okay. Prick your ring finger. Okay. 3 drops of blood with India ink, for an example. You can create blood ink. Okay. And then just sign your name. Or if you don't mind doing it, just drop a few drops of blood on the thing and then either keep one copy for you and burn it, the other one and send it to her. Okay? This is a pact. What you want to do with her, or to learn from her, for her to become your patron, because most likely she is your patron. Just as Abaddon, was my creator, but Astaroth is my patron in demonology. Okay? You can even petition a spirit, such as Lilith, to become your mentor, your guide, and let them do it that way. Okay? So there's a lot of things that you can do, and I would recommend that you make a pact with her. Okay? As I've stated in past videos, doing a dedication ritual only aligns you with a current. Doing a pact, a blood pact with an individual spirit, that puts you underneath their domain. And that's going to benefit you in the long run, because not only are you protected by that spirit and all the spirits underneath that spirit, but you are also aligned yourself with both the current and that spirit in general. So doing a pact is a good thing, and it will benefit you further. The more you work with that spirit, the stronger that bond's going to get. The stronger you will become through the sorcery that you personally are learning from that spirit or spirits. Okay? So with that said, I want to thank everybody for jumping on here with me. And until next time, I am going to be discussing a few things that I think will benefit you. This is simply the beginning, the awakening process for those of you who are just coming into magic and sorcery. And the videos that I put forth will increase your knowledge and will benefit you personally. You're welcome, nobody. I hope this has been enlightening. Hope it's been educational. And until next time, have a good night.